Coming to you from New York City at SVG's annual Sports Graphics Forum, Brandon Costa here with you from Sports Video Group. Joined now by a good friend of the company, Joss Meinert. Always a pleasure to see Joss and the entire graphics community at this event every year. Thanks so much for continuing to share your expertise with the audience here.
Thank you very much. It's always a great honor and super, super interesting, the number of panels, the number of subjects that get covered, and I just think it's very, very informative and always generative.
Yeah, and it's fascinating year in and year out just how quickly the conversation evolves to new things. With each year, it seems like, even last year, we're talking about some things that maybe aren't even talked about this year, because we're seeing, you're talking about it on your opening session, a lot more three-dimensional, heavy graphics out there in the world today. What are a couple of some of the really big themes in the graphics world that have emerged over the last 6 to 12 months that are really standing out to you right now?
Well, the buzzword that we heard, I think, this morning was Unreal, Unity, real-time rendering. The time has come. I think it was Gary Hartley 2 years ago who mentioned it first, using it in their super regional graphics packages. It's the only way that they could push through that much work in a short period of time. I really feel like we're at a sort of a second wave, that technology is exploding, and that technology will help us in our storytelling in so many ways. And I think sports, in many ways, and probably news, leads the way in terms of needing things immediately, in real time, that are compelling, informative, and entertaining. I was just actually, that last panel, which was super interesting, the AR and VR panel, I was dying to ask a question, which is, there's a line between broadcast AR, VR, which happens on the traditional screen, and then consumer AR and VR, where things happen from wearing a headset or with your iPhone or Android. And I would very much like to see those two worlds come together. And I don't know if anyone's working on that. That was what I'm going to button those guys. So I say, are you working on this? Because there's no reason why sponsorship can't show up in the living room rather than on the 50-yard line. You know, the conversation about, will there be an option in the future where the game can just clear out? You have something on your clicker where you can remove the ticker, you can remove the clock and score bar, you can remove everything and just watch the game super clean. But also, there's no reason why anybody who's experienced VR and AR, I really feel it is so incredibly compelling that to include that in your content creation, include that in your so-called broadcast, that there could be live downloadable content where a player can stand next to you and his stats show up. And I think it's very easy to monetize as well, because sponsors would love that kind of stuff. But how to do it, how is that happening? But I really, really like the idea of those two worlds merging, and that live content, live action sports content, can be somehow captured by the viewer at home and replayed or re-experienced. Yeah.
Kind of somewhat related to that, you mentioned volumetric capture during your session as well. We've brought it up at a couple of SVG events, including the Summit in December. How much have you gotten the chance to play around with that, and what are some of the maybe early growing pains maybe with it?
Yeah, we had a little smidge of that at the beginning of our reel, where we basically take, we shoot a player with 4K video and volumetric capture, and then we ask the ball cap group to send us the data in different forms. In sports, one of the hardest things is to get the players to sit still or stand still or do something. It's hard to get them to do certain things, but if you can capture a digital version with renderers like Unreal, and then you can light them, and you basically have a perfect digital copy, kind of like what they're doing in film, perfect digital copy of the player. Then you can actually manipulate the data to have him appear in a burst of flames, or come together as pieces of ash, or change his jersey so there's a tiger roaring on it. I mean, once you have the data, you can have him appear and disappear, or her, in a huge variety of ways. And eSports, I think, is actually another place where that kind of technology would be super interesting. Because those guys are super shy. They don't want to be in front of the camera. I mean, just as a general statement, they're quiet. Yeah.
Yeah, in esports, you've got this weird dichotomy of, yes, you have the athletes that are playing the game, but then there's so much that you can do with the characters that are within the game, you know.
Exactly.
Essentially infinitely volumetrically captured.
Absolutely, yeah. We're very interested in creating team VR experiences for the fans with esports groups. So the idea would be that you would take a container, a custom painted container, you'd create a narrative for the fans, and you basically shuttle the fans through the experience with their headsets. And I think Magic Leap is now doing GPS tracking, so you don't actually need to be inside a facility. But the fans would love that because they would be able to be their champions. They'd be able to see their teammates and talk to their teammates. They'd be able to do quests, and the whole thing might take 10 or 15 minutes. But if you're shuttling 8 to 10 people through at a time, it would be an amazing fan experience. And then once the event is over, you can put those anywhere in the city and continue to monetize year-round. So we're very interested in bringing people in and showing them what's possible in that regard. I think esports is a huge, huge landscape that I think is maturing rapidly. But I think that thing where people say esports doesn't need TV, but TV needs esports, I think that that's sort of wrong-headed. I think that there's a lot of people that would love to sit with their kid and watch a game that they don't understand in a way that is so validating for their children or their young adults, and that opens up a world that that shows them that they have a potential competitor. The same way that you would support your daughter on the swim team, we should be supporting our children who want to be professional competitors on the esports world. Yeah.
All right, Joss, well, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. I always learn a bunch talking to you, so I could do this all day. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure.
All right. For more of everything going on here at the SVG Sports Graphics Forum, you can visit us online now at sportsvideo.org.